Today, I'm hoping to get this, my 1992 Nissan 300Zx, back on the road. But first of all, there's an annoying as fuck job I need to do. And it involves this. So this is the VG30DETT engine, which basically means it's got 2 turbos on it and loads of other stuff. Anyway, obviously it's a V6, so you've got 3 cylinders here, 3 cylinders there, and then the exhaust manifold here, turbo down there, turbo down there. When I did the valve cover gaskets, I had to take off this plenum, which is quite a long job. Under there is the exhaust valve cover, under there is the inlet valve cover, and this boost hose here has to come off when you're doing that job. And when you take this boost hose off, if you see right there, that is where the boost hose comes out of the turbo. Then it goes down to the front of the car, through the intercooler, and then comes back up into the plenum, and then mixes with the fuel and goes into the car. It comes out of the exhaust manifold, through the turbo, spins the turbo up, and obviously repeats the process. When the turbo gets up to speed, what will happen is there is a wastegate at the back here, which will open, and it will bypass the turbo, which will allow the turbo to spool down. That wastegate is controlled by a solenoid, which is down there underneath that pipe. That solenoid is an electronic device which basically connects a vacuum from somewhere down here to a actuator, which is down there somewhere, which moves a rod here, which opens that wastegate there. There is a vacuum hose what goes from that solenoid to that actuator there. That's all fine on this side. On this side, obviously, I also did the valve covers on this side of the car, and I'd already taken the plenum off, and I took off this boost hose and discovered that that solenoid there was not connected to the wastegate actuator, because the hose was just hanging around down there doing not a lot. So you think, Simon, just put it back on. Yeah, problem is you can't put it back on from up here, because unlike that side where the wastegate actuator is that side and the turbo is there, this is not mirrored. The turbo is here and the actuator is under that side of the turbo, between the turbo and the engine, and you can't get down and under there because the turbo is right up against the strut tower. So you think, well, why don't you just go down below? Let's just go down below and have a look. So what we've done is we've gone round the passenger side to have a look, because this one's easier. And what you've got here is the turbo. The wastegate is in there. This rod here opens and closes the wastegate, and this here is the actuator. On top of here there is a little nipple where the hose goes up from there up to that solenoid up there. I'm showing you here because you can see it. Let's go over there now. So if you come around this side, down pipe, that's the turbo. Obviously it's not over there because that's the chassis rail. It's basically up there somewhere over there, but what you can do is you can get your hand up and you go round the back of the oil tree and you go up here and you basically just feel your way up here somewhere and over there somewhere, and eventually you could just about get to the nipple. And if you come round this way and you look up there and you keep looking up there and you move your light about and you look at it at the right angle and you look at the rod, if you can see the rod, which you probably can't, and you can kind of drop your light, then eventually that moment happens when you see it, and it's kind of up there and over there, and the nipple's just on the bottom here, and basically there's no room at all whatsoever to get to it. And that is when you find this here is what was left of the hose, and this here is a constant pressure clamp. To take this off, you have to get something on it and squeeze these very tightly together and then pull it off what's left of the hose in a direction where there's nowhere to move, there's nowhere to open and close at all, and also that has a few directions it can face. It can face the direction where you get to these 2 bits, and it can face the direction where you can't. So after about 3 hours, the way I got this off was using a tool that you use at the dinner table called a fork. So what I have is a little ratchet what does this, but I don't know where it is, so I'm doing it with a spanner with my hand trapped round there. So that there is the solenoid. It's on a bracket here, so there's a little nut. There was two nuts, but there's only one of mine. I'm going to take it off the bracket to put it up a little bit so I can see which line is not going to anything. So I've undone that, I've pulled it up, and basically what you've got a line what comes out of it, and it goes over to the intake hose there, which is basically the air intake from the air filter. It comes into the turbo, comes out of the turbo, out of there, and then it goes back over to the intercooler. And then the other line comes out, it goes to a T, and basically this T takes a vacuum one way, and this one here is supposed to go down to that wastegate actuator, and basically it never did since I've had the car, so I discovered. So my turbo's just been doing whatever it feels like. So what I'm going to do is I need to connect to there and connect there down to that bit down there, which you can't get to very well. So this hose will basically feed round between this strut here and the turbo, down, under and back up. So what I've done is, this is like 2 meters. So I'm leaving the old 2 meters on it for now, and I've put it down there. Going to find it down the bottom, pop it on, and then see what we've got up here, then chop it and fit it to that. So back down the bottom of the car, I've got this dangling down. That has got to go right up there and onto that nipple, which you can't see, can't get to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 3 hours doing that, and then I'm going to edit it to when it's done, so it doesn't look like it took 3 hours. Well, it's been an absolute arsehole, so I've come up the top and I've took that off, which was an absolute pain in the backside. I've learnt you still can't get to it from above. Well, if you look up there, that's on. So you'll notice that that's a black hose and this is a blue hose, and that's not on. So firstly, I tried ages trying to get up there and try to get on. You can't get either side of the hose with your fingers or any tools or anything to kind of push it on. And this hose here is very flexible, so if you push it, it just goes like that and falls off and whatnot. But what I did find was the original hose, which isn't long enough, but it's rigid. And if you walk it up behind here, and then there's a couple of parts you have to negotiate round as well, and you get it on the nipple, I'd managed to get it to sort of tape to it a little bit, and then I got this tool here, and I kind of did that, and that again, and that a bit more, and a little bit more. Then it fell off, and then I did it all again several times, and eventually I got it on. So what's going to happen is, this here is the blue hose, which is going to the top of the car, and this here is the black hose, which is not long enough. So blue hose, black hose, and I went out and I brought that. So I'm going to join the black hose to the blue hose, because the black hose I could get on there, but it's not long enough, and the blue hose I can't get on there, but it's long enough. So there we go, blue hose routed down round the bottom of the turbo from up above, going over that sort of oil return line from the turbo, and it's coming down here, and then it's connected to the black hose, which is going up there onto the nipple of the actuator for the wastegate. So just reinstalled that, very easy to reinstall pipe. So what we have now is the solenoid for the wastegate actuator. This little hose here goes onto a nipple on that pipe down there, which obviously goes on when I have bolted it back into position on that bracket down there. So this T here, one of them, that one, is going down to a vacuum source here off this inlet hose. The other, this one here, this really long one, this is the one that's going down to the bottom of the car. So what we need to do now is shorten that to an appropriate length and reconnect it there, like so. So pulling that little hose on that nipple down there is pretty difficult. There you go, solenoid back on. Quick tip here. That's going to be all good to slide in there, so if we put that on, it'll go on easier, he says. Yep. Now there should be a bolt there, but there isn't. As you can see, the wire fell off my horn. Well, that's the wastegate actuator problem solved. Couple of things to do down below now before I could drop this thing on the ground and get it running. So first problem, this here leaks. And the reason it leaks is this flange is basically not flush with that one because it's bowed pretty much all the way round. I had an exhaust leak before I took the exhaust off, and I thought it was coming from a downpipe up there, but turns out this is what it was. I have tried to hammer that flat when it was off, but that's like quite fat steel. That's very close to that weld as well, and it's just not having it. That's very close to the cat. You could chop it off and put another flange on, but these cats here are just here for MOT purposes, and so is this exhaust. I'm going to build a custom exhaust in the near future, so I've got a temporary fix. Well, there you go, temporary fix applied. I'm pretty sure that's why I didn't have any gaskets when I took it off, and they'd already done a similar temporary fix before, which wasn't working. So one more thing before we lower it to the ground. Obviously I replaced the rear main seal. That was the start of all this trouble, and that was because it was leaking oil, and it leaked quite a lot of oil. So I've got a new oil filter to go on, and I'm going to do an oil filter change. However, I want to basically see how it goes and see if it leaks anything first. So we're going to top up the oil, and then we're going to get the car on the ground. We're going to drive it for a couple of weeks or so, see how it goes, and if it's all good, we're going to get it back up, get all the filter done. So that's how much oil I've lost, basically between 1/2 and 3/4 of a litre. That's how the car would look if I lowered it. Right, let's see if this thing works. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, reverse. Well, good backwards, and it goes forwards. What I need to see is if the reverse lights come on, why it's in reverse. Well, that's a win. At least I plugged one wire in the right place on the gearbox. Well, that exhaust definitely blowing where that flange isn't flush. If you stand here, you'll hear it every now and then on this side. Anyway, next thing to check is whether I connected the speedo up properly on the gearbox, which will also affect the power steering. Well, the power steering seems to be working, so that's quite promising. I'm going to just see if the speedo works now. Yes! We have a speedo, which means I've connected all the wires properly. So I've just been around the block, which is literally up there, around there, back round there. And yeah, the brakes feel like a car that's been sat for quite a few weeks and not moved. So I need to drive it and basically wear them back in. So it's the next day, car's been clean, car has also been driven a bit, and it's had chance for the brakes to kind of burn off all the corrosion what's on them. It's had chance for the O2 sensors to get the fuel in right and for any old fuel to be burnt off. Car runs really well now. There is a small exhaust blow where the catback meets the cats, because that flange is bowed. But in the near future I will be doing a custom exhaust 3 inches into an X pipe into a 4 inch, and that will solve that problem with some V-band clamps. The Z1 divorced downpipes, basically it splits the wastegate and the turbo outputs. It really does change the sound of the exhaust. It's really raspy now, and I'd really like it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribe, a like, comment and all that, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.